Welcome, dear students. In the yesterday class, I have explained about the Indian Constitution. In this unit, the salient features of Indian Constitution, we have some emergency provisions, fundamental rights, directive principles, all these discussed in the previous class. And also directive principles, freedom of speech and expression. Actually, in the American Constitution, there is a separate article which is devoted for the freedom of the press. Whereas Indian Constitution, there is no particularly one article related to the press, but we have the same kind of freedom, that is freedom of speech and expression. So Article 19 of 1 of A, there is a freedom. We have freedom of speech and expression. And also we have to remember about the Article 19 of 2, which gives us some limitations. In the previous class, we have discussed all these in detail. Now coming to some media laws related to exactly what we are now need to know about this all media laws. Media laws, it is in your course book. In the syllabus, you have unit number 2, that is media laws. In this unit, we have some subtopics, that is the history of laws related to media in India, and Press and Registration of Books Act, which is act done by the Britishers in the year 1867. And post-independence, we have Delivery of Books and Newspaper Public Libraries Act. One more act, that the Young Persons Harmful Publication Act in 1956. Working Journalist Act, this is very important for us, in the year 1955. Cable Television Regulation Act in the year 1995. And also Cinematography Act in the year 1952. And some parliamentary proceedings protection of publication act, which is actually implemented in the year 1957. Later some amendments are made in the year 1990. Later subsequently there is and another important point is Prasar Bharati. Now what we are getting the information from the television and radio, which is comes under the radio means AIR, means All India Radio, and Doordarshan, television means Doordarshan, that is under control by Prasar Bharati, means government monopoly institution. There is again satellite channels we have. So one by one, which one comes under the Cable TV Networks Regulation Act. One by one, I will explain you in detail. Media plays a vital role in informing people about their surroundings, the truth, and the situations they reside in. Media laws is not a term for a uniform and integrated body of a law like the law of contract or the law of crimes. It is a mix of a variety of laws and ethics that are considered most important for a working journalist and the media industry. What does the media laws do? Why the media laws? The media laws examines the limits within which the media organizations and journalists operate. Hence, this type of emphasize diverts the focus on terms like freedom of speech, defamation and privacy, censorship, contempt of court, and defamation, etc. So let us discuss about the first about the history of laws related to media in India. James Augustus Leakey, he is, we know in the semester one and two, we read about him. In the year 1780, he started one newspaper, the modern newspaper. Earlier, there is a journals, number of journals on and off, which is related to particular one cause, means either a devotional or a poetry or related to some religion. But particularly, we call a newspaper that is the Bengal Gazette or Calcutta General Advertiser. This is the first newspaper in India. It was only run 2 years. In the year 1782, because of its outspoken criticism on the government, means the then East India Company government. So it is seized in the year 1782. Like censorship licensing was also a European institution to control the press. It was introduced again. This is whereas in the Europe means even the British, the same is means that kind of censorship is introduced in the Bengal region, Bengal province in the year 1823 through Adams regulations. This is the first kind of its freedom media regulations, which is it started in the year 1823. The regulations name is Adams regulations. What will be in the Adams regulations? The East India Company also issued restrictions that no servant means of that company, East India Company means ultimately that is a colony of British, should have any connection with the newspaper. And licensing regulations were replaced by Metcalfe's Act, which was applicable to entire territory of the East India Company. And East India Company first it was reached to the Bengal. So that is why they are focusing on the Bengal. Licensing regulations were replaced by Metcalfe Act, which was applicable to entire territory of East India Company, and it required that the printer and the publisher of every newspaper who need to declare the location of the premises of its publication. Licensing was, however, it is reintroduced in the year 1857 by Lord Canning, and who applied all kinds of publication. In the year 1816, Indian Penal Code was passed as a general law, but laid down offences which any writer, editor, or a publisher must avoid the offices of defamation and obscenity. In the times of British, many laws related to the press were enacted. In the post-independence time, the various governments have enacted many more media-related laws, even independence. Media being a powerful influence on the society, it is regulated and controlled by various legislatures enacted from the time to time. Among them, the important one is constitutional provisions. Here we need to know. The Indian Constitution does not provide freedom for India separately, already we have discussed, but there is an indirect provisions for media freedom. It gets derived from Article 19 of 1 of A. Earlier session, we have discussed about the 19 of 1 of A. This article guarantees freedom of speech and expression, not exactly freedom of media. The freedom of mass media is derived indirectly from this article only. Article 9 of 19 of our Constitution deals with the rights to freedom, and it enumerates certain rights regarding individual freedom of speech and expression, etc. Once we need to know about the entire what is inside the Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. All citizens shall have the right all the citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression, to assemble peacefully and without any arms, to form association or to form unions, to move, to freely move throughout the territory of India, to reside in any part of the territory of India, to acquire, hold, and dispose of property, and to practice any profession, or to carry on any occupation, trade, or business. It is under the Article 19 saying to every citizen has a right to stay wherever it is. Earlier absorption of Article 317 Jammu Kashmir, there is some restrictions. But later it is now, even though any person can, any citizen is, they can do business, they can buy land, whatever it is possible with the, in the Jammu Kashmir. However, the right to freedom of speech and expression shall not affect the operation of any existing law, or it is not prevent the state from making any law insofar as such law imposes reasonable restriction on the exercise of that right in the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, because this is the limitations. While writing your news, you should not be touch these limitations. Means the sovereignty and integrity of means our writing should not be affect the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India and security of the country, and should not be affect the relationship with the foreign states, which has our friends, and public decency, morality in relation to contempt of court, defamation, and also incitement of offences. These are some restrictions. While we are to writing, we should be known about these restrictions. Already in the other sessions, we have discussed about these limitations and also the expressions of freedom and freedom of expression and speech. Now coming to discuss about the present registration of books act in the year 1867. Actually, some 2 years ago, we have it is replaced with the Press and Regulation of Periodicals Act, PRPA 2023. But some objectives, all these are the same, but little means the nomenclature is itself is changing, but some objectives, some elements which are covered in the PRB Act 1867, those are covered in the PRPA Act. 2023. The objectives of just here we need to know which is published, which is we have given in the textbook, and also as a history related to the laws. As a journalism students, mass communication students, we must know some history about the laws and some acts related to the press. So earlier, there is a Press and Registration of Books Act in the year 1867, very old one. The objectives of PRB Act are to regulate the printing press and for newspapers, for the preservation of copies of every book and newspaper printed in India, and for the registration of such books and newspapers in the country. This is the oldest law relating to the press. So even though it is a repeal and the new act, new law means this press and registration of periodicals act, which is enacted in the year 2023. Even though a little we need to know about this act because the previous act, the Vegan East India Company in the year 1867, the East India Company was introduced this act. Why? This is because a system of voluntary registration of publications was evolved, but it failed. So it was found necessary to establish a system of compulsory sale to government of, but here 3 copies, as per the act, 3 copies of each work in India, means began India under the British or East India control. There is a number of places. So they given this act for India only. According to PRB Act, a book includes every volume, part or division of a volume, and a pamphlet in any language, and every sheet of music, map, chart, or plan separately printed, and a newspaper means any printed periodical work. Newspaper is a periodical work. Pamphlet is a timely published and distributed. So that is the difference. Generally, we call it is a daily. Daily means daily newspapers. Monthly, that is a monthly, daily, weekly, fortnightly. These all are the periodicity of that publication. Right? There was an amendment also made in the PRD Act. It's changing circumstances. Though the basic of the recommendations of the first press commission in the year 1953, post-independence of India, the major amendment was made in the act, which created the office of the Register of Newspaper for India, RNI, and laid down its duties and functions. The same RNI is right now also, but there is in place of a register, we have now Director General who is leading this office. The functions and objectives, everyone is similar in the new act also. New act means in the year 2023 there is one enacted act. So the RNI means the reason now it is a Director General of Press and periodicals publication. Dear students, if you have any doubts, please type in your type in the chat box. Otherwise, you may type in the you may ask me, raise your hand and ask me. I will explain you with clarifications. So as per new act, because in the textbook we have not included, because the textbook is printed in the year 2018. But now the change has been made. So once you go to the website and read the press registration of periodicals act, in place of RNA, RNI, the new nomenclature is slightly changed. That has also changed. Now it is known as the Press Register General of India, PRGI, in place of RNA, RNI. And PRB Act, in place of PRB Act, we have Press and Registration of Periodicals Act, PRPA Act 2023. This is an update. So you must be aware of this update also, because as a journalism student, you must be known the new policies or acts or rules and regulations which is made time to time by the regulation authorities like Press Council of India, otherwise the Government of India, otherwise the digital, for digital purpose there is a Information Technology Act. There is also time to time changes have been making. So as a journalism students, you must need to know about all these updates. Next one is, this is history only. Just I am telling you some history only. Means from the history to today's acts. Because earlier there is some acts already we have discussed of the PRB Act, which is 1867, and under the PRB Act there is one another important point is delivery of books of public libraries, subject to any rules that may be made under this act, but without prejudice to the provisions contained in section 9 of the Press Registration of Books Act 1867. Some slight changes are made in the new act, PRB, PRPA Act 2022. So delivery of books means to the public library means under this act, every publisher should need to send a copy to the library, which is located in the Kolkata, nowadays Kolkata. So everyone must need to send one each copy, a newspaper or a monthly paper or weekly, whatever it is, need to send for the library, public library. So this is earlier in the 1867 PRB Act. There is a mention clearly about all these. There is a mention about the penalty and offences, how will be affected in case they are not sent a copy to the library. So this is some old history. Just I am forwarding because we need to know about the other important acts. Today is what we are facing. Other act, which is the Young Persons Harmful Publication Act, which is after independence we have, it is implemented, enacted in the year 1957. An act to prevent, by this act to prevent the dissemination of certain publications harmful to young persons. It is enacted by the Parliament in the 7th year of Republic of India. Why this? What is the definition? What is the harmful publication? We need to know. Harmful publications means any book, magazine, pamphlet, leaflet, newspaper, other any publication which consists of stories told with the aid of pictures or without the support of pictures or only in pictures, being stories portraying only or mainly. There is a condition. The commission of offences, acts of violation of a cruelty, or incidents of a repulsive or horrible nature, such a way that the publication as a whole would tend to attempt a young person into whose hands it might fall, whether by inciting or encouraging him or her to commit offenses or acts of a violation, violence, or act of a cruelty in any other manner, whatsoever. And who is young person? So in this act, they mentioned that under the age of 20 years, those are the young persons. There is a penalty of also for sale of harmful publications to the publishers. So what is the, so this is all the some old acts, but just we need to know about our publication, because as a journalism students, in case of you are starts a new publication in the print media, before that you must be known about this act. There is a penalty, there is a appeals to High Court against order of orders, and there is a chance power to seize, destroy and also penalty. Dear students, now it's time to know about the Working Journalist Act, which is very important to us as a working journalist. We must know what is Working Journalist Act, leaves, and gratuity, hours of work, leave, wage board, rights of working journalist, and gratuity, notice board in case of retrenchment. All this included in this Working Journalist Act. But many newspaper organizations, because this is only applies to the newspapers only, because this act is enacted in the year 1955. Began the press means only newspapers. There is a no much. There is a no television channels and no television on this, and there is a no particular news radio correspondence or this only, that is monopoly by the Indian government. Doordarshan and Doordarshan is the only initial stage in the 1955. So the Working Journalist Act, there is a mention who is working journalist. So based on this working journalist meaning, now it is who is working journalist, even though in the television channels. So this applies, means meaning is only applies, but the entire act is not applies to the news television channels, even though digital media channels. Right? You are clear, I think so. Now we will know about the Working Journalist Act. What is Working Journalist Act? because this is very much important to us because we need to know as a working journalist. Maybe you may be in the uh, printer means print media or electronic media or a digital media. You must know about the definition of working journalist. Working journalist means a person whose principal avocation is that of a journalist and who is employed as such either full time or a part time in or in relation to one newspaper or more newspaper establishment and includes who are the working journalists. Here it is mentioned the editor, a leader writer, news editor, sub-editor, feature writer, copy tester, reporter, correspondent, cartoonist, news photographer, generally now it is called as a photojournalist, and proofreader. These are comes under the Working Journalist as Working Journalist Act 1955. There is some more designations were added in this the definition of working journalist timely means time to time, but as per the act, these persons are comes under the Working Journalist Act. Nowadays, a photojournalist, video journalist, video editor, and news presenter were also coming in the working journalist. Why we need to know about the working, who is the working journalist? Because if we have not clarity about the who are the working journalists, we may be confused. Right. Next, what are the rights for the working journalist? One by one we will discuss. Here, this act, Working Journalist Act, the name entirely, it is nomenclature is again amended in the year 1974. The Working Journalist and Other Newspaper Employees Condition of Service and Miscellaneous Provisions Act. This is the main title of the Working Journalist Act. As per the provisions of this act, a working journalist shall be required or allowed to work for not more than 144 hours during any period of 4 consecutive weeks. The period of 144 hours of work does not include the time of for meals, and every such journalist shall be allowed at least 24 hours of the rest during any period of 7 consecutive days of work, means weekly off. Generally, it is called generally weekly off. And generally, we know the working journalist whose time is 24 hours somewhere in case of newspapers. Generally, the period between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. that is called a general duty. But in case if a worker means a journalist who works after 11 o'clock, so they have to pay some night allowance also. It is included in the Working Journalist Act. First, we need to know in case of retrenchment, means if they are removing our job from the organization, what they have to do. So, in the time where a journalist was permitted to continue into employment even after he had attained the age of superannuation, but later on his service were terminated without giving him notice or retrenchment compensation. It was held by the court that the action of the management of the company in terminating the service was illegal and improper. So without the superannuation age, no employer should not be terminate a person. Without what in case of terminate, what happens? There is a section 3 of the act it makes clear that the notice period applicable in case of retrenchment of a working journalist shall be 6 months. In case of editor, for editor it is 6 months, and 3 months in case of any other working journalist, according to the provisions of 3 of the Act. Though the provision of the Industrial Dispute Act, which is enacted in the year 1947, the same is applied here in this Working Journalist Act. Now coming to discuss about the gratuity. A working journalist who has been terminated otherwise than as a punishment implicated by way of disciplinary action or retired from the services on reaching the age of superannuation, or voluntary resigns from the service, or dies while in service, shall be paid on a such termination, retirement, resignation, or death by the employer the gratuity which shall be equivalent to 15 days average pay for every completed year of service, or any part of thereof in excess of 6 months. So generally, these gratuity in the newspapers, they maintain that only after the 3 years, which is also 3 years of service, they are eligible for the gratuity. But many media organizations say that that is a 10 years. They need to work with their company at least 10 years. But this is a slight controversy between the working journalist and the media press management. But it will be cleared by the court, labor court, whatever. Now coming to discuss about the leaves. Without prejudice to the such holidays, casual leave or other kinds of leave as may be prescribed, every working journalist is entitled. Earned leave means 90 days generally. Earned leaves only it will be stored up to 90 days only. If 91 days, it will be not so. So on a full wage for not less than 1/11th of the period spent on duty, and leave on a medical certificate on one of the wages for not less than 1/11th of the period of service. Generally, in a newspaper organization, there is a 10 casual leaves, 10 sick leaves, and 10 earned leaves. 10 or 15 earned leaves now it is applying in all newspapers. This is a general, in general it is applying. And there is also 10 all the year, there is only 10 holidays for the working journalists, other than the GTF. Those are mentioned time to time, means every year, earlier from January to December. There is another kind of leaves also there. That is a quarantine leave and extraordinary leave and study leave, maternity leaves for the women working journalists. So first, the quarantine leave. Quarantine leave on a full wage shall be granted by newspaper establishment on the certificate of authorized medical practitioner, means doctor, for a period not exceeding 21 days, or in exceptional circumstance, it may be goes to the 30 days. Now coming to discuss about the extraordinary leave. A working journalist who has no leave to is a credit may be granted at the discretion of a newspaper establishment in which working journalist is employed. Leave not due. Now coming to discuss about the study leave. Study leave may be granted in same pattern. Now coming to discuss about the maternity leave. A female working journalist who has put in not less than 1 year service in the newspaper establishment in which she is for the time being employed shall be granted maternity leave on a full wages on a production of a medical certificate from an authorized medical practitioner for a period which may extend for 3 months from the date of its commencement or 6 weeks from the confinement, whichever is earlier. Leave of any other may be granted in continuation of maternity leave. Maternity leave shall also be granted in case of miscarriage, including abortion, subject to the condition that the leave does not exceed 6 weeks. There is one section related to this maternity leave in the Act that provides that without prejudice to such always casual leave or other kinds of leave as may be prescribed, every working journalist shall be entitled to earn leave on a full wages for not less than 1/11th of the period spent on duty, and also leave on a medical certificate on one of the wages for not less than 1/18th of a period of service. Let us look about the wage boards. Why the wage boards? Wage boards are the fixation or the division of rates of wages. For the purpose of fixing or revising rates of wages in respect of working journalists, the central government has constituted a wage board which consists of 3 persons representing employers in relation to newspaper establishment. Means various various newspaper organizations registered in the RMA. So from the newspaper organizations establishment, 3 persons will be in the wage board and 3 persons representing working journalists. 4 independent persons, one of whom shall be a person who is or has been a judge of a High Court or the Supreme Court, and who shall be appointed by the government as the chairperson of thereof. So wage board is consist with the 10 members. One is the chairperson out of 4 independent persons. So there is a 4. One is the chairman. Remaining 3 are the members, and 3 members from the working journalist, 3 members from the newspaper establishment. So there is a 10 members, 1 chairman and 9 members. What is to these wage board? The working journalists are entitled to receive wages at a fixed rate, and the wages shall be revised also. The function to fix and revise the wages in that of the central government under section 8 of the Act. which shall be performed though a wage board constituted under the section 99 of the Act. The central government has been empowered under the section 12 of the Act to enforce the recommendation of the wage board. It is the provisions of section various sections which is we have in this Act. But ultimately, what this what this board do, they revise and fix the rates based on the CPI, means consumer price index, and some these and all some other timely fixation of other, including labor act, there is also some fixations of wages. So based on this and some in the central, there is a pay commission, 6th pay, 7th pay commission. Like this is here in the wage board also. The recent one is the Madhya wage board, which is in the year 2000. In the 2007, this Madhya wage board is the latest one. There is also some changes made in the wage board in the year 2019. But there is, because earlier only the Madhya wage board is the last one. Again in the year, new some codes and other wage bills which is included in one umbrella. In the year 2019, there is a new wage board system. The central government the bill is introduced in the year 2019. There is a number of cases against the wage board and the establishment, newspaper establishments. There is a results in favor of journalists. It is may reach up to the Supreme Court also. But it is a level of a labor court work only, but it is sometimes it is reached the case to the Supreme Court. Next, rights of working journalist. What are the main rights for the working journalist? The rights and benefits provided to the working journalist under this Working Journalist Act are in addition to the provisions of general labor welfare regulations. The act mainly provides for a certain special safeguards and the payment of fixed wages, because that is a wage board. The act also requires the management to pay the workers irrespective of its financial capacity to pay. By virtue of the provisions of this section, various sections is included in the act. And also Industrial Disputes Act in 1947 need to be known. So for as the relate with these interpretations, the labor problem of the working journalist. So newspaper employees, for the purpose of giving protection of them, Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, which is pre-independent, that is in the year 1946. The Employees Provident Fund Act in 1952 also applies to the working journalists who are working in the newspaper establishment. If the number is above 20, they must be pay a provident fund as per the according to Provident Funds Act, which is enacted in the year 1952. So as per the Act, PF, Provident Fund facility need to be given by the establishment, newspaper establishment to the working journalist. Next in the Act, Cable Television Networks Regulation Act 1995. Before the cable television was introduced in India, the broadcasting was completely under the control of the government. During the 1990s, when cable television came into existence, the government was not able to put a check on transmission and broadcast of television through foreign satellites. So, Cable Television Networks Regulation Act, which was enacted in the year 1995. What will cover in this act? Let us look. Registration as a cable operator must under this act. Any person who is operating a cable television network may apply for the registration and also need to be renewal of a registration as time to time. While registration, there is some conditions. So as per the conditions and eligibility, the cable operator need to be registered. Against here, we need to know some about nowadays we have a direct television DTH, direct to home facility we have. Many are using DTH network, DTH only. A few still using cable network through cable. There is also some agencies, Pathway and some city cable, in cable. These are some cable networks. Still, it is working in some places, but many of now entered into DTH system. So, what a cable operator need to know? He must maintain the register. Cable operator have to be maintain a register indicating therein in a brief the programs transmitted and to the cable television services during a month, and such register shall be maintained by the cable operator for a period of 1 year after the actual transmission or retransmission of the said programs as to the content transmitted or retransmitted. And one more is some compulsory transmission of certain channels. All cable operators shall compulsorily retransmit some Doordarshan channels. Doordarshan is an autonomous body by the Government of India under the Prasar Bharati Act. Almost all the television viewers subscribe to one or other cable TV network. The provisions of this act by all the operators is imperative. So they must be follow this act. Now coming to discuss about the another act related to the working journalist. Working means here it is exactly not related to the working journalist, but it is film as a one kind of a mass communication. We know it, we learned it is in the semester 3 electronic media. in the electronic media, television, radio, and also films also comes under the mass communication, not exactly the journalism, but it will come under the mass communication. Even though we need to know about the cinematography act because this is not exactly not suitable for the working journalist in the field, but a general awareness, general knowledge based for the purpose of general awareness, we need to know about this act. Cinematography Act is a regulation which came into force on July 28 in the year 1952 and which provides for the establishment of authorities to censor movies and prevent the exhibition of films that are against the culture of Indian society. Under this act, there is one board, that is Central Board of Film Certification. According to the provisions of the Act, central government shall establish the board of a film certification to give permission for the films to be presented for the public. The board of the film certification consists of a chairman and minimum of 12 members and maximum of 25 members. What is this board do? This board gives the certification to the films. There is a 4 general certifications. One is the U. U certificate means unrestricted public exhibition. So at any age group, any person can see this U certificate film. Another one is U by A. Under this certificate, children below the age of 12 years need to be guided by the parents. Under the guidance of the parental only, they will see that film, U by A rated film. There is again some rules changed in a recent year. There is again 0 to 7 years one category, 7 to 12 years one category, and 7 to 14 is another category is also included. So there is again U by A, there is again 3 subcategories. Based on 3 subcategories, a person means a children need to see the film under the guidance by under the parental guidance. There is one more certificate, that is a certificate, which is restricted to the adults only. One more certificate is S certificate. S certificate is restricted to any special class of a person. Means, for example, a doctor whose role is means they are means they are filming a surgery, but it is not exhibits for all public because that is only a particular person, professionals only known about that one. They need to be maintained. That content should not understand, even though that content is not related to the any general public. So the S certificate publication film is only for the professionals. In case of professionals means not exactly the doctors. Professionals means engineers or any other related professionals also maybe. Means that content is only suitable for the professionals, not for the entire public. Yeah, dear students, if you have any doubts, you may ask me, raise your hand and ask me. Otherwise, I will go to the next sub-content, that is Parliamentary Proceedings Protection of Publication Act in the year 1957, and there is a amendments also happened. So according to articles of the Indian Constitution, Article number 105 of 1 and 194 of 1 of the Indian Constitution, there shall be freedom of speech in the Parliament, both houses, like Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and even also in the state legislatures. In the state legislature, for example, in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, these assemblies, Bihar, Maharashtra, these assemblies, Uttar Pradesh, these states as a two houses. One is a assembly, another one is a legislative council. In the parliament, we have one Lok Sabha house and another one is Rajya Sabha house. So, as a journalism students, while we are covering Lok Sabha news or assembly, state government legislature house news, we must be aware about these parliamentary proceedings for publication act as a journalism students. There is one more act, that is a Prasar Bharati Act, that is in general we call it is a Broadcasting Corporation of India Act. Under this act, the radio and Doordarshan will come under this act. This act extends to the whole of India. The act provides for the establishment of a broadcasting corporation. The act defines composition, powers, and functions of the corporation. It grants autonomy to the All India Radio, Doordarshan, which previously under the control of the government. After 1990, All India Radio and Doordarshan became an autonomous bodies under the Prasar Bharati Act. What will cover under the Prasar Bharati Act? So, who shall be what is the Prasar Bharati board? There is one board which is the chairman, and for the board, one chairman, one executive member, one member finance, one member personnel, 6 part-time members, and the Director General of Akashvani, Director General of Doordarshan. These two were ex-officio members, and one representative of the Union Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and 2 representatives of the employees of the corporation. So there is a one controlling board. The main function of this act to provide the autonomy to Akashvani and Doordarshan, and to uphold the unity and integrity of the country, to maintain the democratic and social values, to look after the safeguarding of citizens' rights, to spread literacy, awareness of on agriculture, rural development, health, family welfare, environment, science and technology, to encourage healthy competition and the spirit of sportsmanship by providing adequate coverage to sports and games. These are some important objectives for this corporation, means the Prasar Bharati. There is a Prasar Bharati, there is a powers, and national broadcasters. Who are the national broadcasters? So Prasar Bharati is the national broadcaster. It is the largest technical coverage. The Prasar Bharati services are available all over the corridors, or the nook and corners of the country by the AIR, means All India Radio or Doordarshan. So dear students, so far we have discussed various media laws, acts, and the acts which were imposed in the East India Company and also British rule, post-independence and present. All these important acts related to the media, so far we have discussed in this session. Tomorrow we will discuss another important topic, which is unit number 3, that is press commissions. After the independence, there is two press commissions, and some committees were established. We will discuss about the commissions and committees in the next session. Thank you very much, dear students.